Hi, this is Lois Haggard. I'm with the New Mexico Department of Health, and this video is about the new IBIS Admin application version 3.0. The IBIS Admin application is a web-based application that allows indicator report authors to maintain their report content. The application is a user interface that sits on top of the IBISAdmin database, and it's recently been upgraded from version 2.3 to 3.0. This video is primarily intended for people who have used 2.3 before, or version 2.3, and if you're brand new to the IBISAdmin application, you may want to watch it anyway, but we'll do another video that's more in depth for people who are brand new to the application. So the first thing I wanted to do was talk about why we went to 3.0, or what's all the fuss about. So the couple of things here. One is we want to provide users with a better user experience. So guiding users to less complicated information first, like indicator reports and community profiles, topics pages that have less clutter and links that are easier to see and use, and multiple indicator report indexes to search for indicator reports more easily. 3.0 will also allow users to export graphs and maps, so no need for screenshots anymore, and easier community reports with more options for the users. So for the community reports, basically anything that's a geographic or demographic dimension, we can create a community report for. Here I've selected sexual orientation, and mental health status is the set of indicators that I selected, and if I select gay or lesbian as the subpopulation, I get a report that shows me how the New Mexico gay and lesbian population compares to the state overall on these mental health IBIS indicators. And if we have U.S. data, to the U.S. also. So those reports will be more common, more available, and easier to set up, and hopefully easy to use. Another thing about 3.0 is that in the new system, every indicator will have its own little data set, and you'll be able to use those data in a variety of ways as indicator authors and owners. Only one of those ways is to produce an indicator profile report. You can also publish a variety of data views and then use them in different ways. So you can enter the data such as for these two views, and not use it in your indicator report, but make those data available for other types of reports or web pages. Indicator authors can also cross-reference their indicator to an IBIS topic page and select which users can edit their report. So you don't have to go through an admin anymore to do those activities. Okay, another thing, since we're storing our data in the database for multiple years, we're not overwriting our data every year. So this is an important thing to remember. Don't overwrite your old data. Each year we'll add a new year of data, and that will allow us to use the indicator data in previous years. And one way that we can use those data is a time series map, like this example I just pulled off the internet, where here we have 1975, a map for 1975. The user can move the slider up to 2004 and see how the map changes. So those are just a couple of the exciting things we're going to be able to do. Other things are to embed our maps and charts in other web pages. So for instance, you can create a story page. So this is a page that usually is some kind of pretty images and some narrative text, and then you can embed your IBIS graph and have some, more narrative text. Scroll down and tell a story. The other thing that is exciting, I think, that we could do is create dashboard pages. So you can have multiple either indicator or query graphs on a single page, and then when you go to that page, the graph displays the latest data. If it's indicator data, the latest data you have published, or if it's query data, in this example, infectious disease epi updates their data every night, and they could see the latest data for these 6 diseases on their dashboard page. Excuse me. Okay, so IBISAdmin 3.0. This is the indicator list page. It looks pretty much the same as it did in version 2.3. And after you log in, you should see a list page with all the indicator reports that you have permission to access and modify. For this video, I've logged in as our YRRS survey coordinator, data steward, aficionado extraordinaire, Dan Green, and I'm going to look at the alcohol drinking and driving among youth indicator. So the first thing you'll notice is that this page, so down the left hand side we have pages, and across the top we have tabs. So this page is split up into 4 different tabs. So one thing to remember or to know is that as you go from page to page down the left hand side here, IBIS will automatically save your work. But as you go from tab to tab across the top, this is all the indicator detail page. It's just split up into 4 sections. So you'll want to save your work fairly often, especially when you're on these kind of pages. The admin system will time you out after 20 minutes of inactivity, so just be aware. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get to this page is to open the report for editing. When you first get to this page, if it's on completed, if the status is completed, you'll notice everything's grayed out and you can't edit it. So you pull open this drop-down box, you click on open, and you click the save button. And then once you've saved, you notice the save button goes away. It appears when you have new changes that need to be saved. Okay, once you get the page open, the first thing you're going to want to do is to update the updated on date. This is not an automatic field, it's something you need to fill in, and it tells the user when the page was last updated. So this is our stamp, our date stamp. These data were up to date as of this date. Couple of other things, or one thing that's new is this concise title, and I'm going to demo these help icons right now. So if you mouse over or click on one of these help icons, you get some help text. Hopefully it's helpful, but let me know if it isn't. So concise title is used in chart and map titles, and I'm going to talk more about this later. I wanted to bring your attention on this as we go across the top. How and what doing is not much different from 2.3. Under more context, we have evidence-based practices, and I just want to encourage everyone to complete this field. Communities in New Mexico look to us for information on the best health promotion practices, and as subject matter experts, it would be great if you could provide this kind of information to our users. Okay, on the far right tab, the other tab, you'll see a way to select your organization. The organization is what controls the page footer that has your program contact information. So you'll want your pages to have your program contact information in the footer, and that's where you select that. It should be set up for you already, but if it's incorrect, if the information's incorrect, let me know and I'll get it updated. If the organization that's selected is the wrong one, then you can select the right one in this spot here. Okay, the available services and more resources pages really haven't changed since 2.3, so I'm not going to go into those pages, but I do want to show you the related topics page. So this is a new page that allows authors to associate your indicator with one or more topics. What this does is it tells me that you'd like to see a link to this indicator on that topic page. So, for example, under Health Topics on the View application or the public IBIS website, there's an alcohol topic, and when we go there we see these related health indicator report links, and here's the alcohol drinking and driving among youth. So that's what that's all about. Oh, and the help text for that says select all applicable topics. This will list your indicator on the respective topics pages on the IBIS site. This isn't automatic, it just tells me what you want, where you want to see your indicator links. Alright, now the data view pages. So this is where the rubber hits the road. A data view is a specific graph, chart, or map of your data. I want you to notice that the view titles in 3.0 look more like what we called subtitles in the older version. And remember when I said that the chart and map titles were generated automatically? Well, here's a little bit about how that works. So here's the complete title for the youth drinking and driving for New Mexico and US by year graph. And the components of that title are the concise title from the indicator view detail page, the view title, that used to be our subtitle, and the period title. So in your view title, you'll want to name the crosstab dimensions, such as by year or by county, and any subpopulations, in this case grades 9 through 12, and New Mexico and US. Don't include the period title in your view because that information comes from the data set that you're using. And you'll be able to override this title if you want to. I'll show you where to do that later. So let's look at the county data view for youth drinking and driving. Here's the bar chart by county, and here's a map. Those are both in the county data view. So to get to the county data view, you can either select the radio button and click on the view's detail page on the left nav button, or you can just click the hypertext link for that view and it will take you to the detail page. So here's the detail page for that view. As you can see, this is another one of those pages that is split up into multiple parts, and you tab across the top to get to the different parts to this page. The measure and period on this page, you're not going to want to change these. If you want them changed, you should probably talk with me. I'll probably make these not editable for you in the future. It's just a little complicated, and I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed and frustrated. And then also on this page, you'll notice there are some data notes. The data notes for you, as you're updating your pages, you'll just want to see your report previews to see if the data notes are still necessary. Certain data notes, like age adjusted, is connected with the data now, and values suppressed and unstable can be assigned in a different way, and I'll talk about that later. Okay, the chart definition. This is pretty self-explanatory, and this is also where you can override that automatic chart title if you want to. If you leave it blank, it'll use the automatic title. If you put something in here, it'll use whatever you put in here. You can still find the old map colors in the map definition tab, and you want to use this zoom to lower 48 for the map of the US. It zooms out so you can see the whole US. Most of us won't use these last two tabs up here. This image tag is just for those of you who are using supplemental images on your pages, and the other tab is something we're not using yet. It can use a whole different web page instead of the indicator report page for that view. And maybe I should just hide this tab for now because we really haven't used it at all. Alright, so I'm going down the list here from the detail page. Now I'm on the Views Datasets page, and this is not editable. It's just showing you what datasets are available for this data view. Every indicator report has at least one dataset. A dataset is a combination of the indicator, alcohol, drink, drive, youth, the measure, percentage, drinking and driving, and the data source, YRRS. So this view has two data sets because we have a New Mexico YRRS data set and a CDC Youth Online data set, and that's what controls your data sources that are going to be displayed on your page. So you don't have to select your data sources anymore. Also, within a data set, it's assumed that all the values in this data set can be compared meaningfully. So that's why we have different data sets for crude and age-adjusted rates, because we wouldn't want to compare a crude rate to an age-adjusted rate. I think that's it for that page. Okay, the next page. These are the data points for your graph, are also called the views data records in the database. This page should look familiar if you've used IBISAdmin before. And remember, we're not overwriting our old data anymore. We're keeping it in the system. So between the title, New Mexico, by county, New Mexico, and this information up here, you'll know what these data apply to. So if you go to the page and see data values, you can look up here and say, oh, those are my 2017 data values. Well, if I'm Dan and the next time data are available is 2019, and I want to enter the 2019 data, I would not overwrite these values. So how would you enter your new data year without blowing away the 2017 data? Well, we can look at the help text, and right now that's probably not very useful because we need to learn some new vocabulary. We need to learn what views dimensions and views dimension values are. So if I go to the views dimensions page, you can see some of the new vocabulary that we need. We need period dimension here. We need to know what that is, and period dimension values, category dimension and category dimension values, series dimension and series dimension values, and the constant dimension. So I have prepared a little exercise so that we can get familiar with these terms. So here's that typical chart or atypical chart again, pretty classic trend graph. And first I'm going to point out the value axis. The value axis has the measure values and the measured title. The measured title, percentage drinking and driving, and the percentage values that you use to read the chart. The other axis is always the category dimension, or where you'll find the category dimension. On this graph, the category dimension is year, and the category dimension values are the specific years, 2011, 2013, etc. All right, so sometimes the value axis is along the bottom of the graph. So here's the value axis with the measure title, and this is a different topic now, diagnosed arthritis prevalence, and it's age adjusted. That's in the measure title. And the category axis now is on the left. Okay, so sometimes these get swapped. But the point to remember is that the value axis has the measure title. The category dimension is opposite the value axis. Now, what's interesting about this graph is that it also has a series dimension. We can see there are multiple data points for each category, and that means that there are multiple data series. If a series dimension is used, you'll see a legend with the dimension values listed. Okay, so now we know about the value axis, the category dimension, and the series dimension, and series dimension values. All right, so we're going to run through some of these and point out our new vocabulary. So what are the category dimension values here? Well, our value axis is on the left. Our category axis is the other axis. The dimension values are counties. So you can see the dimension values along the bottom here. And then we come to New Mexico and United States. These are not counties, obviously, but we wanted those bars added to the chart. So we've added those series dimension values to our data view. Category dimension values to our data view. So how many data series does this chart have? And the answer is only one. There's no legend anywhere, and there's only one data point per category. So in this chart, what's the period dimension? Well, the period is measurement period, and in this example, it's 2017. And I'm going to introduce a constant period dimension, and in this case the period dimension 2017 is a constant because it's the same across all data values in the chart. So we have a constant period dimension, and the constant period dimension value is 2017. Okay, next example. We looked at this a little earlier. The value axis on this chart, remember, is on the bottom with the measure title. The category dimension is race ethnicity, and we've added the New Mexico and United States category dimension values. So this dimension, race ethnicity, has 5 dimension values, and then we've added 2 additional dimension values. Okay, what's the period dimension for this chart? It's a 3-year period, 2016 to 2018. Is it constant across all categories? Yes, this period dimension, this 3-year period, applies to all the data values, so that makes it a constant. Is there more than one data series in this chart? No, there's only one data point per category, so there's no legend, so there's only one data series. The value axis on this chart is a classic display with the value on the left. The category dimension is age group. There are 4 category dimension values, the 4 age groups labeled here. Is there more than one data series? The answer is yes. For each category, there's more than one data point, and there's a series legend with the series dimension values listed in it. So this chart has a series dimension, and there are 2 series dimension values. So what's the period dimension for this chart? The period dimension, again, is the 3-year period 2016 to 2018. And is this constant across all categories? Yes, this measurement period applies to all the data values in the chart. Okay, here we go again. Unintentional injury deaths by race, ethnicity, and mechanism of injury. The value axis is along the bottom on this graph, so we know the categories are over here on the left. The category dimension is race, ethnicity, and there are 5 category dimension values. Does this graph have more than one data series? And the answer is yes. Each category dimension value has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series dimension values. And you can see them along the bottom here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 injury mechanism values for the series dimension. And what's the period dimension for this graph? It's up in the title. 5 years, 2014 to 2018 is the measurement period, and it is a constant because this measurement period applies to all these data values in the graph. Oh, here's an interesting one. So where's the value axis on this chart? It's the classic display with the value axis and the measurement title on the left. What is the category dimension? Category dimension is year, or in this case it's actually 3-year groups. These are overlapping 3-year groups. These are moving averages. Excuse me. The series dimension, there is a series dimension. For each category, there are 5 dimension values, and again it's, or not again, but in this case it's race, ethnicity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 race ethnicities, 5 data series for each category. And is the what is the period dimension? 3-year groups from 1999 to 2001 is the first 3-year group, to 2016 to 2018 is the last 3-year group in the graph. And is the period dimension in this graph a constant? Do all of these data values have the same measurement period? No, it's the category dimension, and the measurement period changes from one category to the next. So it is not a constant period dimension. Back to our county data view again. So we're going to look at those data that we were looking at before. And remember, we had the data for 2017 are what's up for this data view right now. So if you want to enter data for a different year, remember, we're not going to overwrite our 2017 data. We need to tell the system that we want to enter data for a different year. So once again, we have our help text, and this time maybe these words have a little more meaning. Hopefully they have a little more meaning than they did last time we looked at this. So we're going to look at our views dimensions. These are the dimensions that are available to use in our data sets for this view. And here's how we're using them. The period dimension is year, and for that county graph, remember all the counties' data values have this apply to the same year, so that the period dimension is a constant. And we're not using grade level in the county view or sex and race. We're using counties, and we're adding in these New Mexico and U.S. category dimensions onto our view. So now we can look at the view's dimension values, and these are ordered along the top. What are we using for the category, what we're using for the series, and what we're using for the constant. So in our previous slide we said for the category we're using counties and New Mexico and US. So for the category values, which is the page we're on, you can see we've selected all the counties, we've selected New Mexico and US. For the series value, well, we have only one data series, so we don't have a series dimension. So there are no series dimension values. For the constant value, this is single years, and if you're going to start entering 2018 data, you need to select the radio button for the 2018 data year. And then when you go, because it's a constant, you can't select more than one, it's one at a time. And then when you go to the views records, you'll see that it's blank, the cells are blank, and the dimension value is 2018, and it's all ready for your data. All right, so next we're going to look at the views list and look at a different data view just to see another example. So for the data by year, here we have multiple years for New Mexico and the US. These are our two data series. And we've got odd years through 2017. When Dan gets his 2019 data and he wants to enter it, he's going to want to enter it in here, but there's no place to enter 2019 yet. So he needs to go to the views dimension values, and in this case we have radio buttons, and he's going to select or turn on or activate the 2019 data year, and then he'll be able to enter 2019 data. So one thing I want to point out while we're on this page is that if this were a BRFS indicator, we'd select this asterisk here, because this is what creates a break in the trend line. So all of the single year dimensions have an opportunity to create a break right here between 2009 and, or actually 2010 and 2011 for BRFS. So if you select that year, that'll create a break in your trend line. And there's also one of these between in the all year dimension between 2007 and 2008 for indicators that need a break point when we're using indicators that need a break point for when we started using the new standard birth certificate in 2008. Okay. So now Dan selected 2019. We go back to the views record page, and you can see that there's a blank now where he can enter his 2019 data. We still have the merge data feature. So when you want to enter data from Excel, you click on that and it takes you to this dialog box where you enter or copy and paste your data from Excel. And remember, if you want to overwrite your data to correct any incorrect values, you can check the overwrite box. But please remember not to overwrite the 2017 data with your new 2018 data. If there are already data on this page, that should be a clue that you need to add a year or modify the period dimension values, unless, of course, you do want to overwrite the data because it's incorrect. Okay, so also notice that the rows are numbered now. So this blank data that Dan is going to enter in 2019 or 2020, this year when he gets new data, is in row 9. So when we go to merge the data, he can tell the merge feature that he wants to enter data on row 9, and then he can cut and paste his data or copy paste his data into here. Of course, when there's only 1 year, it's probably easier to just enter it by hand, but just heads up that the rows are numbered and you can choose the starting row to merge your data. Okay, another thing on the data values page is that when we have long lists of dimension values, we've split those up so you don't have to do so much scrolling. So you want to use the drop-down box to choose which page or which sheet you're looking at. In this case, it's been split up along the New Mexico and United States dimension, and you can swap between those using the drop-down box or using these forward and backward arrows. Okay, now a little different subject. You may remember that the county data, when we were on this Views Detail page, showed a data note that was used with the 2017 data. Well, that data note applied to these display labels, and there were asterisks put in the table and a data note at the bottom of the table that described what the asterisks meant. Well, we're handling this situation differently now. We're using something called a value attribute column to indicate issues with specific data values. So instead of looking like this page with the display labels, now it should look like this. No more display labels, and we're using value attributes to indicate what's going on with each individual value. So what this will do is we'll add a column on your data table with a word or symbol that matches up with a standard data note underneath the table that describes the meaning of the word or symbol. The survey suppressed here will have a slightly different data note than the other suppressed category. In my Excel worksheets, I've kept the unstable and suppressed messages in the admin note column. So when you paste your data in using the merge feature, it'll remind you that you need to do something over here and where you need to do it. So to select these, there's a drop-down box in the value attribute column. You click the little down arrow and it opens this up, and you can select a value attribute if it's relevant. And here's kind of how it's going to look. So here's your data table for that alcohol, youth drinking and driving, and you see there's a column with the words in it and some text underneath, and we need to do a little more work to match these up a little better, but I think hopefully you'll get the idea from looking at this. And a couple last slides. You can do a preview from the View Detail page, and that will preview that one view page. I'm sorry. Yeah, Views Detail page. Or you can do a preview from the Indicators Detail page, and that'll preview the whole summary page. And what I usually do is after I enter the data for every view, I preview it and make sure it's looking how I want it to look. And once I think I'm done with the indicator, I'll go to the indicator's detail page and I'll do a preview to make sure that all the views look right, and I check my graph dates and notes and make sure that everything's looking right. Okay, I think that's it, and I hope that you have a good experience entering your data and using your indicator reports, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions and issues, and we'll just have to resolve them as we encounter them. Thank you so much.